Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to tell you about this podcast. It's called The DK Project, but it's really The Darren Show. The DK Project is a radio show, but without the radio. So sit back, buckle up, and enjoy the ride.
Let's go!
Welcome, podcast listeners, to another episode of The DK Project. Ho-ho! We've got a special guest on the line today, chiming in from out west, it sounds like.
Denver, Colorado.
Colorado.
Well, bring out the Gimp.
I think the Gimp's sleeping.
Well, I guess you just have to go wake him up now, won't you?
Stephen Hibbert is on the phone. Actually,
Hey,
he's
how
on
are you
Zoom.
doing?
I got to remember that when I'm Zooming, I can't say phone because that's so 90s, you know. Nobody uses a phone anymore.
Well, or flip phone, even more so.
Yeah, right. Stephen Hibbert, better known as the Gimp from Pulp Fiction. This is a big deal. Is that like on your business card?
No, it isn't actually. And for a number of years, it just sort of sat there. But when the internet hit and everyone could Google and social media and all of that stuff, all of a sudden there was this interest in me going to like fan fests and movie conventions. And so I thought, okay, I'll do that. And
did you have to wear the gear?
Because before that, it was obviously I was anonymous as the character, so there was no way to monetize it. There still isn't, but it was an honor to be a part of such and is an honor to have been such a part of a terrific film and kind of a memorable scene.
Oh man, I tell you, so when you showed up for that casting, were you didn't wake up and go, man, I got to get that Gimp part. You were probably
get into my Gimp adjustment. No, unfortunately I had read the script before. I was friends with Quentin, and he let me read the script. I was amazed by the script, of course, and he said, "Hey, you know what? We're auditioning for the Gimp. You want to come down and do it?" Because he had seen me perform with a sketch troupe in LA called the Groundlings, pretty well-known group. A bunch of SNL people came out of Google Groundlings, SNL. It's pretty amazing the number of people who've come out of the Groundlings as performers and writers, including yours truly, and done work there. So I said, yeah, that'll be fun. So I went down to the audition.
Did you show up in the outfit?
No, sir. I did not own the outfit. That was not a requisite for getting cast. Thankfully, I had very little knowledge of that world. And still do.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's what I have children, for God's sakes. So I went there, and Quentin acted like my master, and I was the slave, if you will.
Yeah.
And we improvised a scene where he was ordering me around the room, and we did it for the executive producer, Lawrence Bender, and the casting director, and a couple of other people who happened to have been in the room, and it went fine. And speaking of the 90s, back in the old days, by the time I got home on my answering machine, they said, "Hey, you got the part." So there you go. And
you're dating yourself.
Exactly. So I went for a fitting. They, speaking of the costume, they had rented it from the Pleasure Chest in West Hollywood.
Oh, you didn't even get to keep it?
No, it was a rental, which is even creepier.
Wait a minute. That's a rental? Someone else?
It was a rental, my friend.
Well, I'm sure it wasn't used for the movie the last time it was used.
I shudder to think what it's been used for.
So you were in early heavy usage of hand sanitizer before the pandemic was even around, huh?
I certainly was. Over the course of the 3-day shoot of that scene, I lost about 15 pounds.
Come on, really?
So seriously,
I'm going to get one to wear around the house just to lose weight.
There you go, the Gimp diet. Maybe that's
trademark that. That might be good.
There we go. Let's get some backers. No pun intended.
So you were there for 3 days working on that. And did you get to hang out with everybody there? Like,
yeah, great group of actors. The two hillbillies, Peter Green and Dwayne Whitaker, who were both friends of yours truly, and then Bruce Willis, of course, and Ving Rhames, who are amazing actors, obviously, and it was just a pleasure to be in the company of these pros, and they were all really cool about it because they knew right on. I had on this Gimp outfit plus a little fat suit underneath the Gimp outfit because Quentin wanted the Gimp to be a little chubbier than I am. So I was, as I said, I was sweating up a storm.
Oh.
So they were really cool about like, hey, let's get moving. We got a guy dying in a leather outfit here. But it was fun, and we the thing about that movie, it's I think it is one of those movies like every decade has like. The movie, like in the 70s, you might say The Godfather, or the 80s, Raging Bull. And I think there's a good argument to be made for Pulp Fiction for the 90s.
Oh my God. I'm a 90s guy. I graduated high school in 91.
Okay.
And I'm not even kidding. I think I saw that movie 15 times in the theater.
Did you really?
Oh my gosh.
Well, there you go. Yeah. And I don't think you're an extraordinary case. It's one of those movies that, well, because of the structure of it, it bears repeated viewings because you kind of go, oh, there's a hint of that.
Yeah.
And you see all these little Easter eggs throughout the film. He puts Easter eggs in all of his movies.
Oh, shit. I don't even know that I noticed Easter eggs.
Well, you know what I mean? Like there's just little hints of what's going to happen. And like the cigarettes that Travolta smokes, or cigarettes, is a cigarette brand he's used in other movies and things like that. So,
oh man, you know what? You should put a list together of things to look for.
I think there is. I'm sure there must be thousands of lists of guys that, by the way, the pair of shoes he's wearing, and so there's all that stuff.
You know what? I should probably Google Gimp diet. Someone's probably already got that out there too. Save us the time and the energy.
Exactly.
That's crazy. So if you had your, do you still hang out with or know Travolta or Willis or Ving Rhames?
No. Wait, it was no, not by any stretch, but it was great because speaking of Bruce Willis, at the end of our shoot, because it was such an arduous shoot and it was a restricted set, no visitors allowed because of of the nature of the scene. He had us all over to his really swanky, customized private trailer, and we all had gin and tonics into the early evening, and nice. It was just a really cool experience. And there was that sense, going back to the impact that movie had on you and millions of others, that this was really going to be a great film, and we were all lucky to be a part of it.
Yeah,
even if you never saw my face.
Well, it is one of the more memorable parts. I mean, really. I mean, the show is. I tell you, I can't tell you how many times I've used drops from that movie in my podcast. Every scene has something that's so memorable between the. The cheeseburger and the fucking brain detail. I mean, it's top shelf, man. I loved it. So what, did you do movies before that one, or was that your?
Well, before that, I had, as I said, I was in the Groundlings, which was the sketch improv troupe in LA.
Yeah.
I had gone to SNL with my ex-wife, Julia Sweeney. We were partners. Writing partner. She, of course, was a performer and a terrific performer on the show. And so I did that.
How long were you on there? How long were you?
90 to 93.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So it was a really fun period. Great. Got to meet all kinds of people, including Quentin. That's where I actually met Quentin.
Okay.
Because when Harvey Keitel guest hosted, Quentin was hanging out with Harvey to see what's it like at SNL for a week of production. So he was there with him. So we met. I moved back to LA, and Quentin and I became like movie-going buddies. Really? And back in the day, we used to go see a lot of revival, movies at the New Beverly Cinema, which he now owns. And I distinctly remember sitting next to him before we were going to see, I don't know, Stagecoach or something. And he said, wouldn't it be amazing to own this theater and just, program it and run it the way you want to run a theater with like really good fresh popcorn and, really yummy candy bars from like when you were a kid? I said, yeah, that would be fun. And so he did.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right. Now,
and if you look up New Beverly Cinema, again, we're giving Google a lot of press on this particular interview. But the way he programs it, and he pretty much does program their schedule.
Oh, really?
It's really cool.
So he's really involved, eh?
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
So anyway, so we were friends, and then as I related earlier, the story of how he said, "Hey, it'll be he knew I could perform." So we did that. And then I wrote on Mad TV and Boy Meets World. And later on, another SNL connection. I've become very close friends with Mike Myers, who liked my writing. And so I did ghostwriting and punch-ups on all of the Austin Powers movies. And
hold on now. We're going way too fast. We gotta slow this down.
I'll leave. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Can't thank you enough for all the time. Hey, all right. So my two favorite things in the world are Pulp Fiction and SNL before modern day SNL.
Okay.
So were you on there with like Dana Carvey and Farley?
Yeah, the cast there at the time was the late great Phil Hartman.
Oh. How was he?
And Mike, of course, Mike Myers and Dana Carvey. And it was just as Sandler and Farley and Chris Rock were just arriving, and Julia and
was Kevin Nealon there? Kevin Nealon?
Yeah, Kevin Nealon, of course, the wonderful Kevin Nealon, great guy.
So let's get some dish. Who are these? Phil Hartman. I mean,
Phil was actually a teacher of mine at the Groundlings back in the 80s. Oh,
really?
Yeah. So I'd known Phil for a number of years, and just a wonderful, big-hearted guy. Very, you couldn't really get to know him. He was always, for lack of a better phrase, always on. He was guarded.
Yeah, he seemed like that.
Yeah. And so, but delightful to be around, and just a wonderful guy. Man. And enormously talented, obviously.
What a legend.
And, it was just, improvising with him and back in the Groundlings days was just a joy, just so whip smart and funny, and and a great improviser in that he really listened. It was just, he was a terrific
awesome guy. What about Chris Farley? Did you do any time with him?
Not really. Most of my time was spent working with Julia, and so it's like a school. They were like not necessarily competitive, but to a certain extent, I suppose it is. But they're there are different little cliques, and you get comfortable working with who you got comfortable working with. So there you go.
Was that's where you met Julia then?
No, again, back to the Groundlings. We met at the Groundlings.
Oh,
and
man.
We got married in 87. So we wrote a play together. We wrote tons of sketches together. Got to work on SNL together.
So did you, so walk me through a week at SNL. So you get there and they start kicking around sketches. How does that all work?
Yeah. The host shows up on that Monday, and that's a short day. It's basically everyone has pitches. The host may mention stuff they don't want to do. Like they've been in a movie recently that was panned. I don't want to make fun of that. I just want that to be in the past as quickly as possible, that kind of thing. And then Tuesdays, all the writing is done. And usually, I want to say it's an all-night session, and usually from the combined writing staff and cast members and everyone else pitching in whatever they can pitch in, come up with about 3 dozen sketches, probably.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe a few less, a few more, but that wouldn't be a bad guess. And then on Wednesday, it's all organized into a table read, which is obviously about a little over 2 hours, so much, much longer than the actual show is going to be on that Saturday night. So things get cut, things get rearranged, things could still get cut, but a basic shape of the show is formed by Wednesday evening, at which point all departments, it's all hands on deck getting costumes and sets.
So they put all that together from Wednesday till Saturday.
Essentially it is, yeah.
Wow.
Well, yeah. So it's pretty remarkable how much is done. Obviously they have a lot of stuff in the trunk that gets used over and over.
Yeah.
But, things do have to get built, And now I think it's a lot different because I think the show as it stands now, they do a lot more pre-recorded stuff than was done back in the day.
Okay.
So I don't know what the schedule is like now.
It's not
for the live show. It's probably
as it used to be.
Yeah, it's probably for the live segments. I'm sure it's structured pretty much the same way, but it might not be as there might not be as much material that has to get generated if they've got stuff they're filming and if they have filmed and edited and ready to go. So
wow.
Then Thursday and Fridays are all rehearsal days and camera blocking and rewrites and that pretty much goes right up until the invited dress rehearsal at 8:00 on Saturday night, which is essentially the show.
Wow.
But with a tech run through and everything else.
Yeah.
And then that usually ends around 10:00 on Saturday night. At that point, things are cut, rearranged. And then you got, 5 minutes to grab a drink and say, let's go. At 11:30, no matter what, it goes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It was funny because you were mentioning Harvey Keitel.
Yeah.
I don't watch Saturday Night Live anymore. I just don't. I think it's fallen off the rails, my opinion. But Harvey Keitel was on there not long ago, and he had so much trouble controlling himself. Like he constantly was having to cover for not being able to control his laughter. It was actually,
really? Just kept cracking up.
Yeah, it was actually the best part of the whole thing because just to see him struggle with it and then lose it, it was pretty funny.
That's hilarious.
I missed the good times with that show though. There were so many legends that came out of there. What?
Starting right back in '74.
Oh man, what? Speaking of which, I just watched the Coming to America 2. That was interesting. What about what's been your favorite part? Like you've got, you were a writer on stuff and you were acting and stuff. What do you like doing best?
It's hard to say. I think, the thing I loved the best was, improvising at the Groundlings. And, for years after I became an alumni, I would still go back to the Thursday night all improv alumni show and do it because it's so much fun. I mean, I've had great experiences. I was very fortunate. I'm pretty much retired now and living here in beautiful Colorado and living a very nice life with my girlfriend, Doreen, and my kids are here, ex-wife, who I get along, second of two ex-wives, excuse me, not Julia, my second, two for two. But the woman, Alicia, who I had my 3 amazing kids with, they live just a few miles away. So I'm
nice.
I work part-time at a Trader Joe's, which I love very much. So
you just walked away from all of it?
I kind of did because I wanted, my wife and kids had moved here a few years before I moved here, a year or two. And I missed them too much. So I just closed up shop and said, I have a pension and all that stuff. So that helps support the kids, obviously. But
you're living on the Trader Joe's money, huh?
But that's why I make sure I get 3 square meals a day.
It's the discounts on the food that I'm there for.
Exactly. And as a lifelong customer of Trader Joe's, it seemed like a nice fit.
I want to be the one that hide the little fish.
Yeah. Oh, let's not get into that. We can talk about the Gimp all you want, pal, but let's personal.
So what part of Colorado are you in? Not to get too specific.
Just south of Denver, in a little suburb called Littleton. So
man, I was just out there in Grand Lake.
Yeah.
Oh, right there, the
yeah.
fires. We actually got evacuated because of the fires.
Oh yeah, huge fire up there.
Man,
yeah.
Colorado is awesome. It's
a magnificent. It's a beautiful state. The one thing I do miss, I miss decades worth of friends back in LA, of course.
Yeah.
And I miss the ocean. Those are the two things I miss. I miss the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah. No, but you probably have a lot more normal people when you're in Littleton, Colorado.
There's that. It's a lot less pretentious, and I frankly I don't miss when as being a writer, everyone going, "Did you get staffed yet? Did you just the the low degree anxiety that exists on a continent. Because no matter how successful you get in show business, it seems to me the old cliche of this could be your last job is true.
Yeah.
And so there's always an anxiety. I mean, some people can afford to retire very comfortably, and that's cool and great. But for most people who labor in that field, it's job to job.
Yeah.
And a lot of rejection.
Ugh.
And all of those things, if you can't deal with that, the insecurity of it or the anxiety, whatever you want to call, if you can't roll with it, it's a tough life.
Yeah. No, I'm a voice actor when I'm not busy doing this, and it's the same thing. It's, power of large numbers. You got to audition for 1,000 things to get one.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you can't handle it, it's definitely not the business for you.
No.
So I got one more question about Colorado before we jump back into your.
No, I'd love talking about Colorado.
Well, and it's not so much Colorado specific, but how is, because I'm right at this point. I've got a freshman in high school, so I'm really making my plans. But how is that actual move from everyone everything you've done?
Yeah.
To I'm going to Colorado and I'll know my kids and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, how that first day when you finally say, that's it, turn the lights off, we're leaving, I'm not going back, and I'm going to live this humble life.
Well, what I did, like I said, I basically closed up shop, had garage sales or whatever, and picked a date, May 1st, 2018. I'm going because it's hard, because, well, as an actor yourself, that, oh, great, I leave May 1st, May 2nd, I get offered a series. There's always that ridiculousness in the back of your head, like, what am I going to miss? But that didn't happen, by the way. But
you're still waiting.
Hey, May 2nd, 2021 is coming up, pal.
Exactly. We're coming off a pandemic year. This could happen.
Apparently anything can happen in the last 4 years.
Do you still get calls for anything?
No. But what I do get once this pandemic is over, I will go again, hopefully start doing more of those fan fests, which are really fun to do.
Yeah.
Meeting people, a lot of people who don't know about that world think it's a bunch of weirdos and nerds. And yes, I proudly will wear those hats. But what it really is people who love movies.
Yeah.
Like a guy like you, a guy who really loves good work and loves, and is a fan. And so you meet people who are fans of what I'm a fan of too, great movies and cool movies and,
it's
great
kind of fun just to keep you involved
films.
and kind of just to get out there and,
and
you've done a lot. So it's kind of a nice little residual reward to be able to.
It is. And also I was teaching improv classes at a theater in downtown Denver called the Bovine.
No way.
So I was doing that. Unfortunately, that has gone away in this pandemic time. But so there's always ways to stay involved. And I still have friends back in LA who ask for, jokes and stuff. So I keep my hands in.
You ever do any stand-up comedy?
Never did that. I was definitely, I think the comedy world is broken up into stand-ups and sketch people. Yeah. I was in the sketch people world. So,
gotcha.
But I always admired that. And I have, I'm a fan of it, but I never had the nerve to do it. It seems so lonely and difficult.
Do you miss it then? Like when you go out and you're, brushing your horse in the morning?
Is that a euphemism, by the way?
We'll let the listeners decide.
I miss the camaraderie of it. I think I miss that more than anything else.
Yeah, well, and it's a whole different world out there. You know, the beautiful thing about Colorado is you get sun like 340 days a year.
Oh yeah,
So
no, cloudy days are a rare thing. As it's either snowing or raining, but otherwise the sun is out, and it can be 30 degrees. But if the sun is out here, it feels like it's 60. So that's kind of the secret of Colorado weather.
Yeah,
people back home will say to me, "Oh gosh, so it was 28 today," and I was like, "Yeah, but because the sun is so intense, we're the Mile High City, 5,000 feet up.
Right.
It makes all the difference."
Oh man, I'm so jealous. I'm in Minnesota and it's gray.
Yeah.
It's gray all the time. It's just dreadful.
Yeah. Well, from November to probably April or May, right?
from November to October.
Okay, fair enough.
It just keeps going.
Have a fun Indian summer.
Hey everybody, it's time to talk about Chong's Choice. You know Tommy Chong from Cheech and Chong fame? Well, he's not just a comedian and actor. He's also an entrepreneur. Introducing Tommy Chong's newest line of cannabis products, Chong's Choice. These products are some of the best cannabis products grown by growers selected by Tommy Chong himself, along with his quality control team. If you're interested, go to TommyChong.com. Use the code TC-079K. And also, add the name DK Project to your order. You can also use the code to order merch, CBD, experience the Nano CBD difference, feel it faster, feel it stronger. Shop Nano CBD, shop merchandise. There's all kinds of good stuff on the TommyChong.com website. What better place to get your cannabis products than from the master himself? TommyChong.com. Just make sure you add the DK Project as your order name, and you're good to go.
Special thanks to the good folks at Grady Restoration. If you're in need of some insurance restoration work, not sure if you have any hail damage, storm damage, wind damage, give them a call, 952-472-1570, or look them up on the web at GradyRestoration.com. The season is upon us. Time to start thinking about that outdoor landscape project you've been dreaming of. With everybody being home from the pandemic, you're sitting there looking at your lawn thinking, man, a pool would be nice. Well, wait no more. Maybe it's a fire pit. Maybe you want to enlarge that deck. Maybe you want to add a deck. You never know. Everybody's building houses and doing projects. Sometimes it's better to bring in the pros. Sit down with an NRD landscape design professional. They'll walk you through your options, lay it out, and execute. And you'll be sitting pretty by midsummer, baby. Give NRD Landscape Design a call at 952-212-2665 or look them up on the web at nrdlandscape.com. Don't forget to tell them you heard about it on the project. Yeah, well, and I see on here that you do a lot of like animation stuff. Do you do voices then, or are you writing them?
No, I wrote on Animaniacs and Tiny Toons Adventures. Those were actually pretty much my first professional gigs was writing for Tiny Toons Adventures.
Really?
Yeah. So that was fun.
I had Little Quacker on a few months ago.
Oh, really? There you go.
And he was telling me that process of trying to get a show on to a 30-minute show, or however it is, it's like whatever shortened amount.
Yeah.
But just the process, and it's very interesting how that whole cartoon world works, because it's and some of those like the Looney Tunes stuff, and they've been around forever.
Yeah. Oh, and again, the stuff that like Chuck Jones and Mel Blanc and Michael Maltese were doing in the 50s and 60s and earlier. Those are the first things I showed my kids, actually. I didn't want them to watch Barney because you just learn bad production values. But what I wanted them to see was that great humor of those Daffy Duck, Bugs Bunny, classic cartoons, because they are timeless, like you said.
You don't see that anymore. I actually, it's funny you say that. I've got a 14-year-old who's going to be 15 in about 2 weeks.
Yay.
He wants to get his permit, and I put together a little 20 question quiz for him, which includes, who played the Big Lebowski and name the Beatles and these things, because nowadays they just don't have any of that. They don't have exposure to any of that quality stuff that we did. And, they'll have their own quality, but it's just never going to be as good as ours, of course. but it's funny because they just don't have any of that that background and to show them those original cartoons and some of that stuff that is so automated and so technical now that they don't even, it's not even the same game.
And everything now is, CGI. Now, my youngest is deeply into all the Marvel movies and stuff like that, and I think most of those are really great movies.
Yeah,
they're not necessarily my thing, but I love like Ant-Man. Is that a Marvel?
I have no idea.
Okay, never mind. Let's move on to something.
I don't know them that well. I know I like the what's his name stuff. Robert Downey Jr.'s.
Yeah, Iron Man.
Iron Man. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, so my youngest is into that. My middle daughter is very much into pop culture and knows all the whatever was a hit 12 seconds ago. And then my eldest daughter, who's 21, her favorite album is Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah.
So I feel like they run the gamut.
Wow, you do have quite a collage there. That's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. What about, speaking of cartoons, what about working on Shrek?
Oh, Shrek was really fun.
Did you work on the first one?
But it also brings up the difficult part about animation, which is always you feel like, we could do more because there aren't a lot of the, limitations that we have in the real world, the physical limitations. So you always feel like you can make it bigger and bigger and bigger.
Did you know?
But yeah, I loved working on the Shrek movies.
Did you know that was going to have the impact that it did? I mean, that's got to be one of the big, I don't want to say breakout, but for a cartoon, that was a big deal.
Oh yeah, that along with like the Pixar movies suddenly made that a respectable way to make movies. Because before that, they were all kind of cheesy, weird little one-off,
right.
Fuzzy the Beaver, weird, things that no one ever saw. And then all of a sudden, Pixar comes along, and then DreamWorks got into animation, and I think Fox did too to a certain extent, but all of a sudden, and then I've got Studio Ghibli, of course, in Japan, but all of a sudden you had all these incredible movies, and it didn't matter they were animated or not. They were funny, heartfelt, wonderful stories. Like,
well, and I think it also played to adults as much as it did to kids.
Precisely, which is also the secret of those classic Warner Brothers cartoons we were talking about. Grown-ups could enjoy because they showed them before, movies back in the day.
Right.
So they had to appeal to adults as well.
I totally agree. I think Shrek is something I'll still even watch if it pops on because it's just a good movie.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, it's really funny. And I was only a part of the writing of that. I would love to have been around for some of the acting, the voice work. I'd love to have seen John Cleese working, and and all of those people who did such amazing. The voice work on that movie is, Oh
yeah, no, it's and to see and a lot of people don't know that if they don't. Google it or YouTube it. But like I was just at a retreat or whatever you call it with Debbie Derryberry, who's the person who plays Jimmy Neutron. And, and to see these people in their element doing the voices and making that magic, it's a game changer. It really makes you think a little deeper about cartoons than what you originally did because they're
they put their whole physical being into it.
Yeah.
It's not just
it's
doing
just
a
as
funny
animated
voice.
behind the scenes as it is on the
they're
scene.
not just doing my silly voice as a cartoon character. They're actually acting.
And it's so fun and it was a great experience. But I also just saw somebody who's doing some Looney Tune guys. He does two of the characters. And very
because they're redoing them. Oh, not redoing.
He said he was real good at it, so he decided to apply, and he got it, and he is really good at it. I can't think of his name, but it's funny because that whole cartoon world is kind of taken off. There's way more of that now than there's ever been. But
and also and as half-hour sitcoms, starting with like the Family Guy and American Dad and all of those.
Well, I think The Simpsons just put out their 700th show or something.
34 years,
or maybe it's 7,000. How many?
Yeah, something like that. But they just got renewed for their 35th season or something.
Yeah.
Which is
I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a full episode. I don't know why. I've just never committed to it.
Well, that could be your life's work, committing to seeing every episode of The Simpsons.
Yeah, really. If I start now, I might be able to get them all in, right?
Yeah. Enjoy the last one in your dotage.
What did you write? Did you write on Austin Powers, or did you act in that one?
Yes, I did. I worked on all the Austin Powers. Again, ghostwriting, punching up jokes, coming up with different ideas for different sequences and stuff. And in the one with Heather Graham, which I think is number 2, it is number 2. I play a small role as the inept magma chamber guard, or yeah. So I have a short little scene there where they escape from the magma chamber by Heather Graham distracting me by flashing her breasts at me.
Nice.
Yeah. See, it's a living.
Good scene. I'm starting to see a trend here with your scenes. And you said you're friends with Michael Myers. How is that mind? I mean, that guy's it's just crazy creative.
Yeah, incredibly creative. He's another guy now at this point. I think he's semi-retired, still does bits of things here and there, but he's a family man now. He had 3 kids and raising his kids in as normal a way he can, being Mike Myers, I suppose. But Mike's a terrific guy, a lovely guy, and he was always very generous with me in terms of saying, come in and lend a helping hand on this show with us. And so, I have nothing but great memories of working with Mike. And he, like all people who are extraordinarily sensitive and funny and talented, we have good and bad days, but overall, just his main concern was what's the best possible thing I can put out there. Yeah. And there you go.
Oh man, that's cool. I see on here Newhart. Were you on the original Newhart?
It was the one. No, not the original in Chicago. It was the one where he ran like the guest house in Vermont.
Yeah.
More recent. So that was my first guest starring role. I was a student in a typing class that Bob was taking, and a few lines. And I got to meet William Wyndham. I don't know if you know that name, but he was a wonderful actor. And so I got to gush over someone on my very first job.
William
Wyndham. He was in a sitcom before your time called My World and Welcome to It, which is based on James Thurber's life, who was a cartoonist. And he was just a wonderful actor, had a great career. He kind of a Hal Holbrook type. He was one of those guys.
Yeah.
Just a wonderful actor. So he guest starred as the teacher in the class. And so that was, I want to say around 86.
So do you stay in contact with any of these people?
No, I stay. Now that I'm in Colorado, it's harder and all of that stuff. But definitely stay in touch with a lot of my old Groundlings pals and other friends I made along the way. And I feel very fortunate to have been able to cobble together a career doing a lot of different things.
For sure.
I'm just very grateful for it, but for lack of a better, at the risk of repeating myself.
No, that's all right. We can't get away from your storied career without talking about National Treasure.
Oh yeah,
the old Nick Cage.
Again, that was a little one-off. I had a tiny role. I think it's labeled as. Credited as terrified tourist on the toilet. So it does seem to be a theme. The security at Buckingham Palace break into the restroom stall I'm in thinking they're going to get Nick Cage, and they just get me a terrified tourist on the toilet.
Oh, man. How was Nick Cage?
I didn't meet him. It was no. I would love to meet him. Talk about, legendary Hollywood people. He's a character, right?
Well, and it may be, maybe better that you didn't. Now you can just keep him that legend in your mind, right?
Fair enough.
It could be. It says that you're not from here. When did you come to America?
My family immigrated when I was a little boy to Los Angeles from the UK.
Yeah.
In '64.
So you've been here the whole time, or in?
But I grew up I've grown up American essentially. But on my mom's side, I still have a lot of relations up there in Fleetwood, in Lancashire.
Nice.
So I've been back a number of times over the years. But yeah, that's where I was born originally. Moved here as a little boy, and grew up in Southern California. And there you go.
Wow. That's I always hear about people who live their whole lives in California. It's just a different life, I don't know if I could do it at this stage of the game, but back then things weren't as extreme as they are now, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, yeah. When I moved there, we moved to a town called Tustin, about an hour south of LA. And there were still tons of orange groves, and it was a very bucolic place to grow up. Now all those orange groves are huge, auto mall places and stuff. So it's like anywhere else,
Yeah. Wow. So what's the plan then? You're gonna try and get up to owning a Trader Joe's or what?
Yeah, that is actually the plan.
If Quentin's going to have a movie theater, you should have the grocery store, right?
Yeah, there you go. Now you're talking. No, I'm going to continue working at Trader Joe's because I love it. Continue spending time with my my lovely girlfriend Doreen, who's it's funny. I don't be overly romantic about it, but she moved here from Seattle several years ago. She grew up here in Colorado, and then she moved back from Seattle. I moved back. I moved here from LA, and we met each other, and it feels like we've known each other our whole lives. So I don't want to get too personal or goofy here, but that's been such a great thing for me, actually. So Doreen and I hang out as much as we can, see each other as much as we can, see my kids as much as I can. And hopefully, when we all can start taking off masks in public and people are vaccinated, get your vaccinations, we can, I can start teaching improv classes again, and
I'm coming out
those
for that.
fan fests again, and go back and visit friends in LA again without being quarantined, and all of those things. And you can feel it's starting to change, and there are glimmers of hope. So that's why I would say to everyone, keep hanging on to that hope and do what you can do to be a good.
Yeah, well, and we're nearing the end. I mean, everybody's getting vaccinated, and some of the states aren't even wearing masks. It's gotten quite loose. So it won't be long. How long did you do the improv stuff before the shutdown?
I did like a half a year or so, a couple of classes. So, a couple of sessions. So, and they were fun, and it's great working with people. A lot of times I also taught at the Groundlings, of course, years ago, but the difference is in LA, the students are all thinking about, advancing their professional careers, becoming a groundling, going on to SNL, all of these very narrow sort of trajectories for their lives. And here in Denver, you had a few people who were dreamed of moving to LA or New York or what have you, but most of them were doing it because it was fun. They wanted to do something fun and different. Yeah. So that was very refreshing, working with people who just were there for the class and not for, well, what's this class going to give me? Or, what am I going to get from this? I enjoy teaching.
Well, I imagine that people are 10 times more real there than out there. Out there in Goofy World. What about the Groundlings, people that you worked with or instructed at the Groundlings? Is there anybody that you thought was like, well, this dude's going to be big, or this person's going to be big? I guess it doesn't have to be a dude. Anybody that you thought would have been great that just really never did, like, because you probably got to see them early on and back when they were soft play.
Let's see, back in the day, a lot of the people I was fortunate enough to work with, Phil Lamar, who's also in Pulp Fiction. He plays Marvin, who gets his brains blown out in the back of the car. And now he's a huge voiceover guy himself. He does a lot of animated shows. Will Ferrell, Julia, of course.
How was Will Ferrell in the early days?
Oh, he was great. Will again is one of those guys who has a very unique take on comedy, and has managed to make that sort of, everyman cluelessness just so good.
Yeah.
He's just so good. And even at the Groundlings before he went to SNL, he was kind of the alpha male there. He was if you needed a guy to do something, Will was always a good guy to cast. But the one person who stands out to me, Molly Shannon, and I could go on, and I'm going to forget someone and feel terrible. But the one person that I do remember distinctly saying, "Oh, she's going to be on SNL, I have no doubt about it," was Kristen Wiig. And I directed her in her last couple of shows at the Groundlings, and the SNL people came to see her. And I just sort of said, I just sort of pointed at Kristen and didn't have to say a word. It was just like a nod, like, "Oh yeah, that's really? A no-brainer." Yeah.
Yeah, she was on SNL for quite a stretch too, wasn't she?
I think she was. I think she was on for 8 seasons, maybe if not a season or 2 more.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, she was there a while.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. 08. I don't remember. It's all a blur.
Well, it's funny because you've had a lot of different angles on that world. Normally you don't. Normally someone's an actor and they just act, but being a writer,
I taught, I directed, I wrote. To me, there's something interesting about all of those things. So if you get an opportunity, why not do something interesting? So I was fortunate to get the opportunities to do all those things, and there you go.
Wow. Well, I gotta wrap this baby up. We're running long.
Oh yeah.
It's just so much. I'm thinking we're gonna have you back to fill in some more of the gaps.
Oh yeah, I didn't even tell you. I have a lot of little funny stories about the repercussions of playing the Gimp right after playing the Gimp back in '94. So
wait a minute. What does
wait
that mean?
a minute.
The repercussions. You got negative feedback?
Oh no,
or what?
No, not negative. No, not negative. Although I think I recall Roger Ebert. That was the one scene in the movie he hated, was the Gimp scene. So,
I made him uncomfortable.
A little too close to home watch. But anyway, all right. The one story I always I've told before to friends and stuff is it was hilarious because the weekend Pulp Fiction opened, which was like October of '94. I was visiting my parents' house, and then when I came back that Sunday evening on that weekend, there were like 40 messages on my answering machine. And, you see that back in the day, it's like, oh, God, something terrible's happened.
Yeah.
So I started playing them. First one was just my mom saying, "Lovely visit." And then the rest were all guys who had seen Pulp Fiction in the last 48 hours.
Wow.
And saying they really enjoyed my performance and would I like to meet them for a cup of coffee.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, so I immediately enlisted my number. But the weird thing is, this is you can Google anyone in the world. This is, people had to sit through the end credits, see who played the Gimp, find a payphone, call information.
Oh my gosh.
And say, and get my number. So I became enlisted, and there you go.
Do you get a lot of that when you go to those Comic-Cons?
No, I don't. Thankfully, that's not part of the scene. But it was weird. It was creepy.
Wow. No, who would have thought?
Yeah.
That's extreme. How funny. I guess it never even dawned on me to even look. I mean, because I've never gone to a movie and say, I'm going to call that person's home phone number and tell them I'm a fan. It's like, that's incredible. But that's a different world, though. That whole, leather Bondi, that whole.
Oh yeah,
you know.
yeah. So
and back then they didn't have the internet to Google and get stuff
exactly,
online. Wow.
Or go to their their dating sites.
Because at least they worked a little to find your number. Because that it doesn't just happen. Wow.
Yeah, no, I ended up having a couple of really crummy dates, but otherwise it was great.
It definitely makes you think that that world's been out there for a long time.
Yeah, no, Quentin didn't make that up.
Little stalkers. It's funny because I've tried a few of Quentin's other movies, and they don't hit quite like his does, like Pulp Fiction. Like everybody says Reservoir Dogs or whatever, and I'm like, no, Pulp Fiction is the one.
Yeah, that might. I have obviously a personal connection to it, but it might be my favorite as well. I mean, I really loved his last movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I thought that was a really cool film.
I got to give it another try. I think I started it in the theater, and I was just like, I'm not.
It didn't hit you, yeah. Part of the thing I liked about it is it. I'll occasionally get homesick for LA. Yeah. And it's such an LA movie, and it's LA in 1969, right, which is a little before my time, but still it really evokes the feeling of being in Los Angeles. So that I think something about it I really liked. Man. But he's made a number of really great films. And I hope it's not true. I read somewhere, I'm no longer really in touch with him, but I read somewhere that he's retired, that he's thinking about not making another movie.
Oh, and really?
I hope that's not true. Yeah.
Ooh, that would be good.
Maybe he does just want to manage the New Beverly Cinema and do that. There are worse ways to sort of close the chapter.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Yeah. Well, listen, Stephen, we got to thank you for the time, man. We're going to have you back on down the road just to check in on Colorado living.
Come on. There. Next time you're in town, stop by.
Well, I'm coming out for that improv class. There
you go. Okay. Remember, yes, and.
I want to be on the first class back from the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
That's my goal.
That's a worthwhile goal. Well, thank you so much for having me on. This was a lot of fun, and all my best to you and yours.
Hey, thanks a lot, man. We'll definitely be in touch.
Okay, my friend. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
That's it. That's the end.
That's a wrap.
Read the shtick.
That's a wrap for today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe and tell all your friends. If you'd like to reach out, you can use the studio line at 612-504-6500 or by email, thedkprojectpodcast@gmail.com. And of course, there's always social media at the DK Project Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.